My husband forced me to do this with 3 black men. My name is Cynthia. Today, I would like to share a story that is deeply engraved in my heart. My husband, whom I had trusted for a long time, masterminded something that stirred my reason and emotions. But before we continue, please give a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel, Love 30K Stories. Your support is a great motivation for us. My husband proposed something so insane that I never could have imagined it, but that night turned out to be a turning point. He suggested I become intimate with 3 men, and to my astonishment, I found the idea irresistible. What followed was a series of events none of us could have predicted. I can still vividly recall that evening when everything shifted. It was a warm, sultry summer night, and I had just returned home, drained from the day's workload. My husband, Ryan, was already in the living room, a glass of whiskey resting in his hand. His gaze met mine with an intensity I hadn't noticed before. There was something different about his presence that evening, something that made the atmosphere feel charged with anticipation. As I settled down beside him, I could sense his eyes following my every movement, watching me intently. His voice was exceptionally gentle, almost sensual when he said, "How was work?" I sighed in exhaustion and shrugged. As usual. Just lengthy and exhausting. However, Ryan was not listening to what I had to say. Instead, he lightly touched my thigh with his hand. Even though I was accustomed to his love, our chemistry was different tonight. His fingers brushed along my leg, and I turned to face him, my heart pounding in my chest. His gaze burned with an intensity, a hunger that felt both unfamiliar and exhilarating. "I've been thinking," he murmured, leaning closer, his voice low and intimate, "about us, about what we might need." His words sent a shiver through me, and I shifted uneasily, unsure of where this conversation was heading. "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice quivering slightly. Ryan suddenly has a small smile, his hand sliding higher, his breath brushing warmly against my ear. "I think we need to try something different, something to bring a spark back into things." I swallowed hard, a knot tightening in my stomach. "Something different?" I echoed, uncertain of his meaning. He nodded, his lips grazing the curve of my neck. "I want to see you with other men," he whispered, his words striking me like a bolt of lightning. For a moment I was stunned, my thoughts spinning wildly at his confession. I pulled back slightly, studying his face for any trace of doubt or second-guessing, but all I saw was pure, unrestrained desire. "You want me to be with other men?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "No," he said. Ryan nodded again, passion dark in his eyes. "Yes, but not just any men. I want you to be with 3 strong, confident, and handsome black men. I want to witness you lose yourself in their embrace, feel their touch, and go through a crazy new experience, something thrilling." "Does that include me?" My mind was racing with countless thoughts, swirling around like a chaotic storm. I had never pictured something like this happening, nor had I ever considered that Ryan would even entertain the idea of sharing me with other men. The very thought was foreign to me. Yet, as I looked deeply into his eyes, I could clearly see the excitement shimmering there, the thrill of something forbidden and exhilarating. Strangely enough, a part of me felt an unexpected intrigue about the idea, a curiosity blossoming within me about what it might feel like to be desired by men other than my husband. I found myself contemplating the sensations of being touched by their hands, feeling their warmth against my skin, and kissed by their lips, experiencing a world of emotions I had never explored before. I moved nervously, feeling a wave of heat sweep over me as my body betrayed my unease. I don't know, Ryan," I stuttered, unsure of how to answer. Ryan reached out, gently squeezing my hand. "I know it sounds insane, but I swear it'll be amazing. You'll love it, and I'll be right there, watching you, admiring you. There's nothing to fear." His words washed over me, and I found myself starting to consider it. Could I really do this? Could I really be with 3 other men while my husband watched? The thought felt so forbidden, so wrong, yet at the same time it sparked something deep inside me, something I hadn't felt in a long time. I gazed into Ryan's eyes, looking for any trace of trepidation, but all I saw was complete confidence. He desired this. He wanted me to go through with it, and the idea of satisfying him, of giving him what he craved, sent a surge of adrenaline through me. "All right," I whispered, hardly recognizing my own voice. "I'll do it." Ryan's eyes brightened with excitement, and he leaned in to kiss me, his lips warm and tender against mine. "You won't regret it," he assured me, his voice full of eager anticipation. The days ahead, the night that Ryan had meticulously planned, were filled with a strange and overwhelming mix of excitement and nerves that I couldn't quite shake off. Every time I thought about what was coming, my stomach fluttered with a confusing blend of anxiety and desire that made it hard to concentrate. I tried my best to push the thoughts away and focus on my usual routine, but the anticipation was always there, lingering persistently in the back of my mind, teasing me with the tantalizing possibilities of what was to come. Each passing moment heightened my awareness, making me acutely conscious of the impending event. And then, after what felt like an eternity, the night finally came, bringing with it a whirlwind of emotions I could hardly contain. Ryan had set out everything meticulously, ensuring that every detail was perfect. The men he had chosen were already at the hotel when we arrived, eagerly waiting for us. As we walked into the room, my palms were sweaty with nerves and apprehension. But as soon as I laid eyes on them, all 3 of them, standing there with confident, inviting smiles on their faces, something deep inside me shifted dramatically. They were tall, strikingly handsome and muscular, their dark skin gleaming beautifully in the soft light of the room. Each one of them exuded an aura of power and strength, and I could distinctly feel their eyes on me, undressing me with their intense gazes. My breath caught in my throat as I stood there, suddenly feeling both exposed and vulnerable, yet also strangely empowered by the situation. Ryan stood beside me, his hand resting gently on the small of my back, guiding me forward into this new experience. "Don't be shy," he whispered in my ear, his voice laced with excitement and encouragement. "This is for you. I want you to enjoy it." I looked at him, my heart racing wildly, and saw the unmistakable hunger in his eyes. He wanted this moment. He wanted to see me with these men, and as nervous as I felt, I couldn't deny that a part of me wanted it too, craving the thrill of the unknown. I took a step forward, gradually, my body trembling with anticipation and excitement. "Breath." The men watched me intently, their eyes dark with desire, and as I moved closer to them, I could feel the tension in the room thickening, wrapping around us like a palpable force. I was standing at the edge of something entirely new, something exhilarating and thrilling, and I felt ready to dive headfirst into it. The first man reached out his hand, brushing against my arm, and in that instant, he sent a jolt of electricity coursing through my body. His touch was both firm and gentle, and I found myself instinctively leaning into him, my breath hitching as his fingers trailed softly up my arm. When his eyes met mine, I could clearly see the desire reflected there, the raw, unfiltered need that mirrored my own feelings. He absently tied his front button. Before I even realized what was happening, his lips were on mine, soft and warm against my skin. His kiss started off gentle and tender, but it quickly grew more insistent as he pulled me closer to him. My heart raced wildly as I melted into him, feeling his strong arms wrap around me, holding me tightly against him. I could sense the heat radiating from his body, his muscles flexing beneath my hands as I ran them over his chest, exploring the contours of his physique. Behind me, I could feel Ryan watching intently, his eyes burning into my skin with a fierce intensity. I glanced over my shoulder, catching his gaze for a brief moment, and the look on his face sent a rush of excitement coursing through me. He wanted this. He wanted to see me in this moment, wanted to watch me lose myself completely in the arms of another man, experiencing something new and electrifying. The second black man stepped forward confidently, his hand sliding around my waist as he pressed his body against mine from behind, creating an electric connection between us. I could feel the heat of his breath on my neck, his warm lips brushing softly against my skin as he kissed me gently. My body trembled with desire, and my mind spun wildly with the intensity of it all. Overwhelmed by the sensations flooding through me, I had never experienced anything like this before. This all-consuming feeling of being desired, of being wanted, not just by one man but by three at the same time. It was intoxicating and exhilarating, and I could feel myself getting lost in the moment, my body instinctively responding to their every touch, every kiss, as if they were awakening something deep within me. Ryan's voice pierced through the fog of desire clouding my thoughts. "You're stunning," he murmured, his tone heavy with emotion. "I love seeing you like this." His words ignited a burst of confidence within me, and I shifted my focus back to the men before me. Their touches grew more assertive as the three of them moved closer, their bodies encircling me. I could feel the heat emanating from them, enveloping me in a warmth I hadn't realized I longed for. My breathing grew shallow as their hands roamed over me, every touch sparking a fresh wave of sensation. There was an undeniable sense of power in being the center of their attention, the focus of their desire. The man standing before me placed a hand on the small of my back, pulling me closer until our bodies were pressed tightly together. I could feel every inch of him, hard and ready, his breath coming out in hot, ragged bursts against my cheek as he leaned in to kiss me again. This time, however, the kiss wasn't gentle at all. It was fierce and hungry, as if he were starving for me and everything I had to offer. His tongue parted my lips, deepening the kiss in a way that sent shivers down my spine, and I could feel the intense need in his touch, especially the way his hands gripped my hips tightly as if he couldn't get enough of me. Behind me, the second man's hand slid up my sides, his fingers tracing the curve of my waist with a deliberate slowness before moving higher. Cupping my breast through the thin fabric of my dress, his touch was firm and commanding, and I gasped as his thumbs brushed over my nipples, sending a jolt of pleasure straight to my core and igniting a fire within me. I could feel the tension building inside me, a tight coil of desire that was winding tighter and tighter with every passing second, threatening to explode at any moment. Ryan remained there, watching everything unfold before him, his presence grounding me, even as I felt myself slipping deeper into the intoxicating pull of the moment. His eyes were fixed on mine, and I could clearly see the raw hunger in his gaze, the way he was enjoying this experience just as much as I was. He wasn't merely watching. He was an active participant in this, part of the intense electrifying connection that was building between me and these men, amplifying the entire atmosphere. "You're so beautiful," the third man whispered, his voice low and smooth as he stepped closer to me. His fingers trailed down my arm in a slow, deliberate caress that made my skin tingle with anticipation. "I've been waiting to touch you, to feel how soft your skin is." I shivered at his words, my body responding instinctively to his touch, and I leaned back into him as his strong arms wrapped around my waist from behind, enveloping me in warmth and desire. They seemed to have fully claimed me based on the way they handled and caressed me, and I found myself giving in to the overpowering intensity of the experience. As they freely moved their hands over my body, every inch of my flesh was alive and tingling with delight. The guy behind me bit my neck tenderly, his teeth brushing against my delicate flesh, while his hands glided down, passing over my hips prior to landing on my thighs. I let out a sharp breath as his fingers brushed beneath the edge of my dress, grazing the bare skin of my legs. Heat surged through me, pooling deep between my thighs, the ache of longing becoming nearly unbearable. "Here, do you enjoy this?" he murmured against my skin, his voice low and intoxicating. "Tell us how it feels." "I love it," I stammered, my voice quivering under the weight of my desire. "I've never felt anything like this before." And it was true. This was entirely new, unlike anything I'd ever known. There was a raw intensity to it, a primal energy I hadn't realized I was missing. The way they touched me, the way they made me feel. It was as if they were unlocking a part of me I hadn't known existed, something wild and untamed. The man before me smiled, his hand trailing up my back to tangle in my hair, pulling me closer for another kiss. This time, it was slower, more intentional, his lips moving against mine with a teasing softness that starkly contrasted the hunger burning inside me. His other hand cradled my face, his thumb brushing gently across my cheek as he deepened the kiss. I moaned softly into his mouth, completely lost in the overwhelming feeling. Behind me, the man's fingers were still teasing the sensitive skin of my thighs, inching ever closer to where I wanted him most, but never quite giving me the satisfaction I craved. My breath came out in ragged gasps as I felt him teasing me relentlessly, drawing out the moment and building the tension until it was almost unbearable, like a tightly wound spring ready to snap. "Please," I whispered, my voice barely audible yet filled with desperate need. "Please don't stop." The man chuckled softly against my neck, his breath warm and inviting against my skin as he pressed a gentle kiss to my shoulder, sending shivers down my spine. "We're not going to stop," he promised, his voice a low, sultry growl that resonated deep within me. "We're just getting began." I felt the knot of desire tighten in my heart, growing more and more intense with every passing second, each moment amplifying the yearning within me. My body was trembling now, caught in a delicious struggle between the overwhelming need for release and the tantalizing anticipation of what would happen. A mix of pleasure and longing that left me breathless. The man in front of me kissed me one last time, a lingering touch that sent sparks through my body, before pulling back slightly, his dark eyes locking onto mine as he smiled warmly. "You're amazing," he said, his voice filled with genuine admiration that made my heart race. "I can't wait to see how you feel." With a quick, fluid motion, he slipped the straps of my dress off my shoulders, allowing the fabric to cascade down and fall to the floor in a soft heap around my feet. I was left standing in nothing but my underwear, feeling exposed and vulnerable. But instead of succumbing to shyness or embarrassment, I felt an overwhelming sense of power. The way they looked at me, the way their eyes roamed over my body with unfiltered desire and appreciation, made me feel vibrantly alive, as if I were the most beautiful woman in the world. I could feel Ryan's eyes on me too, his gaze filled with both pride and lust as he watched me surrender completely to the moment, embracing every sensation and feeling that came with it. His support and affirmation only intensified my desire, igniting an even stronger longing within me. The second man moved closer, his hands firm yet reassuring as they settled on my waist, guiding me toward the bed. "Lay down," he murmured, his voice soft yet undeniably authoritative. "We're going to make you feel amazing." I complied without hesitation, my heart pounding wildly in my chest as I sank into the softness of the sheets, my body quivering with anticipation and unrestrained longing. The three men were all surrounding me, their hands and lips everywhere, touching, kissing, teasing in a way that was almost overwhelming. It was pure sensory overload, their combined touches making my head spin and my body ache with an insatiable need. One of them kissed me deeply, his hand tangled in my hair as he pressed his body against mine, his muscles hard and warm beneath my eager hands. Another man focused on my neck, kissing it softly, his lips trailing down to my chest, igniting a fire within me. Meanwhile, the third man ran his hands over my legs, his fingers dancing over my skin in a slow, torturous caress that made me shiver with anticipation. I couldn't think clearly, couldn't focus on anything other than the pleasure they were giving me, the intoxicating way my body was responding to their every touch, as if I were losing myself in an exquisite dream that I never wanted to end. I was completely immersed, utterly overtaken by the sensations flooding through me, and I never wanted it to stop. Ryan's voice cut through the fog of bliss, his tone gentle, yet brimming with emotion. "You're amazing," he murmured. "I love seeing you like this." His approval, his longing, it only heightened everything, making it even more electrifying. I wanted to satisfy him, to give him what he desired. And knowing he was watching, savoring every second, made the pleasure all the more intense. The man at my side leaned down to kiss me again, his lips soft and warm against mine, igniting a spark of electricity between us as his hand slid down my body with a gentle caress. "You're so beautiful," he murmured between kisses, his voice thick with desire that sent shivers down my spine. "I want to make you feel even better than you ever have before." And just when I thought I couldn't take any more pleasure, just when I believed it had reached its peak, they pushed me over the edge, sending me spiraling into a world of bliss so intense that I couldn't even form coherent words. My body trembled with overwhelming sensations, my breath coming out in ragged gasps, and I felt myself let go completely, surrendering to the moment, to the pleasure, and to the intense, overwhelming sensation of being completely and utterly desired by them. It was more than I ever expected, far beyond anything I could have ever imagined. As the intensity of the moment began to fade away slowly, I lay there, breathless and utterly spent, surrounded by the warmth of the three men who had taken me to heights I had never dreamed possible. Their touches softened, transforming into gentle caresses as we all began to come down from the euphoric high of the experience. After all, my mind was still spinning, yet a peculiar sense of satisfaction and deep contentment lingered in the calm that followed. It wasn't merely the physical pleasure. It was the emotional bond, the feeling of being wholly desired, and the knowledge that Ryan had wanted this for me just as much as I had. I turned to look at him, and the pride and love shining in his eyes were all I needed. Ryan stepped forward closer, his hand gently brushing against my face as he leaned in to kiss me softly. "You were incredible," he murmured, his voice rich with emotion. "I knew this would be unforgettable, but you surpassed everything I ever imagined." His words filled me with immense love and gratitude, and as I lay there, surrounded by these men and the man I adored, a profound realization struck me. This wasn't simply about fulfilling a fantasy. It was about trust, about surrendering completely, secure in the knowledge that I was treasured and loved. Together, we had ventured into something new, and it had only strengthened our bond. That's the end of today's episode. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the content, please give us a thumbs up and share it with your friends and family. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, Love 30K Stories, and turn on notifications to stay current with all our future uploads. Your support is incredibly important to us. Take care, and see you soon.